there are 7 types of rest. The first of them is physical, then we have the mental, then we have the emotional rest, social rest, creative rest, sensory rest, and spiritual rest. Never in history have human beings been able to have access to so much information. We were never designed to consume this much information so fast. All of these videos, all of these things, it's just too much for our brains. We were never supposed to be doing things this way. Welcome to Blisstopia podcast. I'm your host, Mercedes Castellani, life purpose coach, business owner, and your spiritual guide on all things mindset, manifestation, and purpose. This podcast is a space for deep reflections, meaningful conversations to help you expand your mind, dive into the depths of your soul, and create a life that makes you feel alive. Whether you're walking, driving, or simply vibing, take a deep breath and get ready to dive. Hello, my love. Welcome to another episode of Blisstopia podcast. I'm your host, Mercedes Castellani, and today we're going to have a short and sweet episode about the 7 types of rest. Because did you know that there are actually 7 types of rest? And I decided to share these on the podcast because I think when we think about rest, we typically think, okay, I need to sleep. If we feel tired, we're feeling exhausted, we feel like something is off, something is missing, something is not okay, we typically think, okay, maybe I haven't been sleeping enough. And that's why I'm so tired, exhausted, numb, overwhelmed. But actually, as we're going to see today, there are 7 types of rest. So if you are feeling, as we speak, tired, exhausted, overwhelmed, overstimulated. You feel like something's missing, like there's too much of some things, too little of certain things, and you can't really put a finger as to, what is actually going on. I think this episode will really enlighten you, and I would really invite you to think, okay, which one of these 7, which ones am I actually craving? Which ones do I actually need right now? So, the idea for this episode is to bring a lot of compassion and really listen to this as what would feel really good right now? What do I really, really need right now? So, there are 7 types of rest. The first of them is physical, then we have the mental, then we have the emotional rest, social rest, creative rest, sensory rest, and spiritual rest. So I'm going to go straight into all of these and start sharing with you what they mean, what do we actually need, what is actually going on. So let's start with the first one. The first one is the physical rest, which is actually linked to your body, your physical body, your vessel. So it's linked to your physical capacity, the stamina that you have, and also your sense of safety. So when we are lacking physical rest, we're going to feel a little bit depleted. But sometimes we think it's only sleep that it's going to give us this rest that we need. It could actually be different things. It could be sleep. It could be taking a nap in the middle of the day. It could be doing yoga, stretching a little bit just because it feels good, not because you're trying to achieve anything, just because it feels good. Having a massage, taking a long bath, and any sort of self-care rituals. So I would invite you to think, how is your body doing right now? Have you supported your body through all of the things that you're going through, all of the goals that you want to achieve, all of the transformation that you're going through? Or have you sacrificed your body? You've left your body aside in the pursuit of a goal, in the pursuit of the next milestone, in the pursuit of the change that you're seeking. So again, think if some of these things would make you feel good. Sleeping, yoga, stretching, a massage, a long bath, any kind of self-care, doing a facial, doing your nails, doing something in your hair. All of these things is just us sending love to our own body and taking care of our own body and our vessel for existence, because our body is literally our vessel for existence. And we want to love and take good care of this vessel because it does allow us to simply exist. So we want to come to this idea of rest, and especially physical rest, with a lot of love towards our body. So that's the first type of rest, which is, as we said, the physical one. Then we have the second one, which is the mental rest. And this one is linked to your mind, the part of you that is, logic, the part of you that might have too much cognitive load, too much decision fatigue. There might be mental noise. So, what can happen is that sometimes we feel exhausted, not because we haven't slept, but it's because we have content overload. We've been consuming so much content, whether that's on Instagram, podcasts, books, the news, and it's like we're bombarded with information and our minds just get tired. Never in history have human beings been able to have access to so much information. There is so much information around us that of course our minds are going to get overwhelmed at some point. We were never designed to consume this much information so fast. All of these videos, all of these things, it's just too much for our brains. We were never supposed to be doing things this way. Maybe you're also learning too many things, but you're not really embodying them. You're not really putting them into practice. You're not really integrated them. So there's a lot of new knowledge, new information, new courses, new things. But what about actually putting these things into practice, actually integrating this? How does this new information that I have actually complement the person that I already am? How can I put all of these things into practice in my own life? So, if you are feeling this, and I know that I've really felt the need for this mental rest especially during the holidays, I was like, it's funny, like I sleep, but there's something else that I need to rest. And then I realized I actually need mental rest. I need to stop listening to podcasts, stop listening to everything, stop checking Instagram, stop everything, and just come back to the present and ground myself in the present. So I did that during the holidays. It was fantastic. So in my case, I realized it was not lack of sleep. It was actually that I was overstimulated with content, with podcast, with courses, with new information, with Instagram. That is not part of my job. So I pretty much go there every day. But at some point, my mind is like, whoa, like we really, really need a break from this. So some ideas in case you realize, okay, I'm actually same, Mercedes, same. I feel you. I'm actually so exhausted, mentally exhausted. There's too much information with work, with social media, with the news, this and that. And it's just like so overwhelming. Some of the things that can support you here are meditation, journaling, just spending time with yourself, literally just being alone, just you, walking somewhere, whether that's walking on nature or walking around the city with a coffee, whatever makes you happy, but just being with yourself. So, really taking time to reflect, taking deep, long breaths, doing grounding exercises. So, every time you're in nature, taking your shoes off. If you have a garden, if you can go to a park, just taking your shoes off and being in contact with nature. That's so good. Spending time in nature does wonders. So, literally, just putting your phone on airplane mode or leaving your phone at home and just going out in nature and just being there, fully present with no more stimuli. It's fantastic. And then something that also helps is decluttering your home. So, you just put some nice music that makes you feel good and you just start putting some order, throwing things away, donating stuff. And that really helps to kind of like let things decant, let the thoughts decant, let everything arrive, be and feel and be there present with whatever is coming up. So I really think that in the society where we live today, with so much information and content and stuff, I think we all need a mental rest much more than we realize. So if that's you, if you're feeling that need, meditation, journaling, being with yourself, reflecting, taking deep breaths, being in nature, doing grounding exercises, and decluttering your space will definitely help. The third type of rest is emotional rest. Oh my God. Okay. Okay, where do we start with this one? First, I want to say that if these past couple of months have been a lot for you emotionally, I feel you. 2025 was the year of the snake. Many things needed to be released. It was not an easy year. Some relationships needed to be released. Some identities needed to be released. Some jobs needed to be released. And all of that brings, of course, emotions that we do need to feel, to process, to digest. So, what I would invite you to think is, where have you postponed your emotions? Maybe you could tell that there was something under the surface, but you were like, you know what? It's just not the time to deal with this. Like, I'm just going to push through. I'm just going to be professional. I'm just going to do what I need to do. I don't have time. But you've actually been putting things under the rug. And then at some point, if you've put too many things in there, you will sense this need to actually, at some point, explore what's there. Look into what is there, feel what is there, digest what is there. So if you have been postponing your emotions, then, and you're feeling like things are bottling up, maybe it's a good idea to start taking some emotional rest. So how do we take emotional rest? We need to start letting those emotions come up. So we want to do, for example, emotional release techniques. Something that really, really, really helped me every time to release emotions was intuitive dance. So whether that's guided with someone, so you take a 5 rhythm class, or you take a static dance class in your city, or you just put some music and you start dancing at home alone, that's going to allow you to start releasing some of the emotions that might be there. Forgiveness, if you've been, holding on too tight to someone or something, forgiving that person, that situation, maybe spending time with yourself alone and just letting the emotions come up if they want to come up, and do and follow the course that they want to follow. Being authentic. So really saying, doing, not saying, not doing, but in an authentic way that really reflects how you're feeling. Honoring your boundaries, putting firm boundaries if you must, strong boundaries that protect your peace, your well being. Being compassionate. If you're going through something hard, maybe you've lost someone that you loved, maybe you've lost something that was dear for you, or you're going through something hard, then adding a lot of self-compassion into that. And instead of criticizing yourself for feeling a certain way, treating like your best friend would treat you. I know, I feel you. It's okay. You've done your best. You literally did the best that you could. Writing your feelings down, so journaling really helps. Sometimes we can't really put things into words, but we start writing and then things start flowing. And having supportive conversations, maybe with a dear friend, with a coach, with family members that you feel really supported and seen by, that you have a really nice connection, that can be very nourishing for the soul, so that you can really finally process and talk about what has been happening in your life. The fourth type of rest is the social rest. And social rest doesn't come because you've been alone. It comes because maybe you've been around people and groups where you feel that you have to perform for. You feel like you have to be a certain way. So maybe there are some rooms where you need to shrink in order to belong. Some tables where you might be seen as too much. So you actually make yourself smaller. You put yourself in a box in order to belong in those rooms, in those tables. And also, maybe you've been around relationships that drain you. They just drain your energy, they suck the life out of you. So maybe that's why you need rest, not from all types of connections, but maybe you need a rest from the relationships that drain you, from the rooms where you need to shrink in order to belong. So, what I would invite you to think is, are there any relationships that you have outgrown? Are there any groups that you feel like you've outgrown? Are there any groups where you feel like you need to shrink yourself? Are there any relationships when where you feel like you're drained after you spend time with these people? And the answer is not going to be easy. This is quite hard. But what I would invite you to do is to start doing this social rest in different ways. We can do this in the form of like a detox, where you take a few days with no social media, a whole week, for example, of no social media, a whole month of no social media, whatever you need. You can take one day with no phone, where basically you just leave the phone in your place and you go out and you do your life. Remember to bring your cards, because now we have everything in our phone, including our cards. So if you do go out, bring your cards with you. If you do go out without a phone, bring your cards with you. You can also do it a day or a weekend where you have nothing in your calendar, like literally nothing. If you want to sleep, you sleep. If you want to eat, you eat. If you want to go out, you go out. If you want to see someone spontaneously, you'll see someone. So the social rest can either be like a detox, so a couple of days with no social media, a day without the phone, a whole weekend where you have nothing in your calendar, or it could be the complete opposite, which is, let me actually seek for meaningful conversations. Let me actually seek for meaningful moments of connection with people that I love. So this could be really having meaningful one-on-one conversations with a dear friend, someone you deeply love, someone you just feel a fantastic connection with. It could be spending quality time with your loved ones, your family, your friends, your partner, the people that will always kind of like make you feel good, just because there's so much shared history and shared values and just, yeah, a shared view on life that you just feel very comfortable. Or spending time with friends that you actually feel safe to be fully you, in whichever version you are right now. So again, think if you're needing this social rest because you've been around kind of like the groups that are no longer aligned, think what do you need? Do you need more like the detox and kind of like clearing everything out? Or do you need those one-on-one nourishing connections? So you might need different things. For the same social rest, you could need two different things. So I would invite you to really think, what am I actually craving? And I think even as I'm saying it, you're going to be like, oh, and you just feel your shoulders go down. Imagine if I say like a few days with no social media, or a free weekend where you have nothing in your calendar and you just feel like you just melt and you're exhaling. That's maybe the sound that your body's doing and the signs that your body's sending you, that maybe that's what you need. Or if you hear just having that coffee with that one friend that's going to make you feel so good and you just have a fantastic connection, and that just warms your heart and you feel like it's that, go ahead with that kind of social rest. The number fifth is actually the creative rest. And this one can actually come up when we are actually putting so much pressure into creativity. If you are a creative person, if you are a creative woman, but kind of like your creativity right now is related to work, I would say, related to your business, and all of your ideas, it's kind of like they have to be productive. You feel like if you do something, it needs to be productive. Like it needs to be for work or it needs to be for your business. But if you really think about it, when was the last time that you did something just because it felt good? You know, just because you wanted to have some fun, just because you wanted to get your hands a little bit dirty, just because you wanted to try something out. So I would invite you in this, in this sense to get back into that moment of curiosity and play and expression without needing things to be productive, without needing things to generate money or be monetized. So, some of the things that you can do just for fun, just because it feels good, it's reading, listening to some podcasts on topics that are not related to your field, do some creative hobbies, like go and try out a ceramics class. Maybe you can listen to some music and just get lost in the music, go to a concert and just enjoy all of the music. Maybe you want to do some painting. Maybe you want to do some games just because it's fun. Maybe you want to solve some puzzles. Maybe you want to try something new in the kitchen and you want to cook. Maybe you want to try something new in bed just because it feels good. You don't need to arrive anywhere. You don't need to get an orgasm. It's just like just to try something new just for the fun of it, just because the idea sounds intriguing and you want to follow the idea. So, those are the things that I would invite you to explore, to be more like a child again and really explore that curiosity, that play, that sense of expression without needing any kind of result. Like zero result is just for the process and for fun, pure fun. Then the sixth type of rest is the sensory rest. Again, we live in cities with so many lights and we have our phones on the whole time and there's noise in the cities and there's just so much the whole time that our nervous system is completely overwhelmed. So the nervous system is like a little cat, like so tight because there's so much stimuli everywhere. So we are overstimulated. So we don't need more anything. We actually need less inputs, less stimulations. So we want to get rid of notifications, get rid of the noise, get rid of all of that keep me company content, the TV that is always on, the music that is always on, the podcasts that are always on just because you don't want to be in silence and you don't want to spend time with yourself because maybe you're afraid that if you do, something might come up. So instead of actually being with yourself, listening to yourself, always plugging more stimuli so that you don't need to listen to yourself. So some of the things that I would invite you to do here is, first of all, really reflect on this. If you've been feeling this way, really reflect on why am I running away from silence? What about silence doesn't feel comfortable? What about silence doesn't feel safe? And let's start peeling away all of the things in this world that we don't need. We don't need the noises, we don't need the notifications, we don't need more information. There's so many things we don't need, and we have too much of things that we don't really need. So if you feel like you want to go into this sensory rest, you can spend time in silence. Even if you're with someone, you could tell them, you know what, I love you, but I need some silence. So you can spend time in silence, you can spend time alone, you can dim the lights, you can turn off all the notifications. You go out, you grab your phone, and you just turn off all the notifications. You turn off all the digital devices. You can also put like a curfew, so a screen-free hour before you go to bed. You can put some blackout curtains in your room if there's too much light. You can meditate because meditation by definition is sensory deprivation. So you are really getting rid of all the external world and going back into your internal world. And you could actually, if you want to go really, really deep on this, and if you feel like you need a good dose of sensory rest, you could actually go on a float tank. I actually tried this out in Paris and it was super cool. I did it twice. Basically, they have these tanks with salty water, kind of like the water that you would have in the Dead Sea. So a lot of salt that actually makes, there's so much salt that it makes you float. And you're just naturally there floating. It feels so good. And you can actually program whether you want to have a silent experience, whether you want to listen to some like super chill, relaxing music, or whether you want a meditation. And I think the first time I tried with very relaxing music, like sounds of nature and stuff like that, like little birds and water and stuff like that. And the second time I did a meditation, it feels really, 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 really good. So you can check if there's a float tank in your city. If you are in Paris, I can give you the recommendation of the one that I did. So just shoot me a DM and I'll give you the recommendation. But if not, you can check if there's a float tank in your city. And if not, again, there's all of these things that you can do at home: turning off the lights, turning off the sounds, turning off all of the different digital devices that you might have, meditating, going back inside so that your nervous system can finally come back to baseline, relaxed, and get rid of everything, all the stimulation that might be outside. And then the last, but definitely not least, number 7 is spiritual rest. And this is actually when we were seeking this spiritual rest, it's more like we're seeking a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, a sense of doing something bigger than us, something that has a greater meaning, something that makes us feel like we're contributing to something bigger, and a sense of inner peace. So some of the ideas, some of the things that you could do is volunteering in any sort of association, or if you belong to any kind of church, you can volunteer in the church, do community service, so really help other people, practicing gratitude, being fully present with all the things that you already have in your life, going on a silent retreat, practicing your affirmations, your meditations, praying if you pray, just really, really, really going into your spiritual practices of any kind, whether you are more into meditation, whether you are more into prayer, whether you're more into just existing in life and being silent and being grateful with life, or whether you want a more social kind of experience where you're doing community service, volunteering, and you're actually surrounded by people, and that makes you feel really good and fulfilled. So those are the 7 types of rest. Let me summarize them for you. We talked about the physical rest, mental rest, emotional rest, social rest, creative rest, sensory rest, and spiritual rest. So again, I would invite you, which one of these 7 do I feel like I'm needing the most? Pick 1 or 2 and go ahead and do your things. Do what your body, your soul, your heart is really asking you from. And I think we live in a world that is that goes so fast, and everything is just like more, more, more. And yeah, and it's a moment that it's overwhelming. There's so many things happening outside. So we do need to carve these moments where we tune in with ourselves, we really listen to ourselves, and we give our bodies, our souls, our hearts what they are really needing. Whatever that is, whatever it is that you need right now, go ahead and with a lot of love and a lot of compassion, really give that type of rest to yourself. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. I love you so much. I'm sending you a warm hug. I will see you next week for the next episode. And in the meantime, in Blisstopia we trust.